In the NBA, greatness never lasts forever, and when it fades, it rarely does so quietly. For every superstar who once electrified the league, there comes a time when the highlights stop, the stats plummet, and the game moves on without them. But the real tragedy? It's not the decline, it's the denial. This isn't just about missed shots or slower legs. It's about ego, pride, the refusal to accept that the spotlight no longer belongs to you. These are the players who still talk like legends but perform like role players. Or worse. Starting with Russell Westbrook, there was a time when Westbrook was a one-man hurricane in Oklahoma City. He wasn't just explosive, he was chaos in motion. After Kevin Durant left for Golden State, Westbrook didn't just carry the Thunder, he dragged them into relevance, putting up video game numbers and averaging a triple-double for 3 straight seasons from 2016 to 2019. In 2017, he became the first player since Oscar Robertson to average a triple-double for an entire season. 31.6 points, 10.7 rebounds, and 10.4 assists, earning him league MVP honors. He embodied passion, aggression, and pure electricity. But fast forward to today, and that same fire now feels like it's burning down every locker room he enters. Westbrook's decline hasn't been quiet or graceful. It's been loud, awkward, and at times painful to witness.
Gives it up. Westbrook in the corner, airmails.
Since leaving OKC, he's been passed around like a bloated contract. Houston, Washington, the Lakers, the Clippers, and most recently the Denver Nuggets, who picked him up mid-season in 2025. And instead of elevating contenders, he's been dragging them down. With the Clippers in 2024, he averaged just 11.1 points, 5.0 assists, and 4.5 rebounds on 41.4% shooting. His poor shot selection, reckless turnovers, and refusal to embrace a reduced role hurt the team in critical playoff moments. He wasn't the floor general, he was the chaos the opposing team welcomed. In Denver, the story hasn't changed. Westbrook still plays like it's 2017, charging into the paint with tunnel vision, missing mid-range jumpers, and hijacking offensive possessions. The Nuggets didn't need a hero. They needed a complementary piece for Jokic and Murray. But Russ acted like the offense should revolve around him. The result? Chemistry issues, poor spacing, and a bench unit that crumbles under his lead. The numbers don't lie. In his first 15 games with Denver, Westbrook posted a plus-minus rating of -6.2, shot just 26.8% from 3, and in multiple games recorded more turnovers than assists. And yet, Westbrook still talks like he's that same MVP, still demands minutes, still plays with the mentality of a superstar. But the reality is clear. He's not that guy anymore. He just can't accept it. At first, when Westbrook arrived in Denver, there was a flicker of hope. Off the bench, he brought energy, hustle, and even brief flashes of his old self. He averaged 13.3 points per game during the regular season, respectable numbers for a sixth man. For a moment, it looked like maybe, just maybe, he had accepted a reduced role. But as the season wore on, reality hit hard. He started missing wide-open layups, blowing fast breaks, and committing costly defensive errors. His struggles guarding quicker guards on the perimeter turned him into a liability on defense, and the basketball IQ that once went unnoticed behind his sheer athleticism, now painfully exposed under the intensity of the playoffs. Then came the breaking point, Game 4 versus the Timberwolves in the 2025 playoffs. Nikola Jokic delivered one of the most dominant postseason performances in modern NBA history. 61 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists.
And Jokic got the screen into Gobert.
And yet, none of it mattered. Because with the game on the line, Russell Westbrook missed a wide-open layup in the closing seconds, a moment that sealed Denver's loss. Jokic looked stunned, the team looked defeated, and that one missed layup, as simple as it was, symbolized something much deeper. A player whose presence in crunch time is now more harmful than helpful. But the hardest part of Westbrook's decline isn't just what's on the stat sheet, it's in the mindset. He still carries himself like the force of nature he once was, still attacks like it's 2017. But the game has evolved, and what once made him special, the relentless aggression, the fearless drives, now often leads to turnovers, missed shots, and broken plays. There's a growing gap between the player he was and the role his teams now need him to play. And instead of evolving with the game, he seems to resist it. The NBA has moved on. Westbrook is still trying to catch up, and that disconnect between pride and present reality is what makes this chapter of his career so hard to watch. Because in the end, it's not just about letting go of greatness, it's about learning how to change with grace. There was a time when Ben Simmons was supposed to be the next big thing, a 6'10" point guard with elite court vision, lockdown defense, and the athleticism to dominate on both ends. He was Rookie of the Year, a 3-time All-Star by the age of 24. He was meant to be the cornerstone of a franchise. But somewhere between the missed free throws and the missed expectations, it all started to slip away. After his infamous 2021 playoff collapse with the Sixers, capped by the now iconic moment when he passed up a wide-open dunk against the Hawks, Simmons disappeared from the game in more ways than just physically. The trade to Brooklyn didn't reignite his career. Injuries and mental hurdles kept him off the court, and when he did play, the flashes of brilliance were rare and inconsistent. Fast forward to the 2024-25 season. Simmons signed a low-risk deal with the Clippers, a team searching for bench depth and maybe a reclamation project. What they got was far from redemption. In 17 games, Simmons has averaged just 3.6 points, 4.8 rebounds, 3.1 assists, shooting a career-low 35.9% from the free throw line. He's barely a factor on offense, often passing up open looks or hesitating to drive. His once elite defense is now serviceable at best. Without his old explosiveness or aggression, Simmons has become a shadow of what he once was. More telling, he's logged 5 games with 0 field goal attempts, not makes, attempts. You can't help a team if you're too afraid to shoot the ball. And yet, Simmons still talks about being ready to contribute, or getting back to himself.
I feel good. I'm ready to go. I had a year off, so a lot of people maybe doubt me now, but no, I'm ready to come back stronger than before.
But that version of himself, the all-star playmaker, the two-way weapon, hasn't been seen in nearly 4 years. At some point, it stops being a slump and starts becoming the new normal. After returning from injury, Simmons wasn't just rusty, he was hesitant. The confidence that once let him glide past defenders and finish at the rim had vanished. He began passing out of open layups, avoiding contact, and playing more like a role player trying not to mess up than a star trying to take over. At times, it felt like he was playing not to lose rather than playing to win. The same player once dubbed the Fresh Prince by LeBron James, a nod to his flair, potential, and swagger, is now a cautionary tale. A former #1 pick who, despite being just 28, already looks washed. Not because the league caught up to him, but because he stopped chasing it. You watch him now and wonder, is it the injuries, the mental blocks, or is it just the slow, silent truth that he might never be that guy again? The NBA doesn't wait, and Simmons, he's still stuck in the past, hoping that glimpses of the old him are enough to justify a roster spot. But in this league, potential has an expiration date, and right now, Ben Simmons is living off a version of himself that no longer exists. Paul George once symbolized the rise of a small market hero, a two-way star who nearly dethroned LeBron's Miami Heat in back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals as the face of the Indiana Pacers. Back then, he was electric, averaging over 21 points per game while locking down some of the league's best wings. His combination of agility, length, and defensive IQ made him not just a franchise player, but a potential heir to the throne of elite two-way greatness. In 2018-19, George had his career-best season, 28.0 points, 8.2 rebounds, 4.1 assists, and 2.2 steals per game, earning legitimate MVP buzz.
Ferguson, because as George lights that one up and knocks it down.
On the Nets.
Paul George elevates, and the
But when the playoffs came, it all crumbled. George wilted under pressure, where he scored just 5 points and ended the Thunder's season with a shot that clanged off the side of the backboard.
They've gotten a number of second shots, though.
George way off, hits the side of the backboard.
Damian Lillard waved goodbye to OKC, and in a way to the peak of Paul George's career. After demanding a trade to the Clippers to team up with Kawhi Leonard, George was expected to be the final piece of a championship puzzle. Instead, he became the missing man in big moments. From clanking crucial free throws in the 2021 Western Conference Finals to a string of underwhelming playoff exits and long injury stretches, the nickname Playoff P transformed into something closer to a punchline. He's choked in nearly every postseason he's appeared in, and fans haven't let him forget it. Now, after signing a massive $212 million contract with the Philadelphia 76ers, George was once again hyped as the championship piece to put Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey over the top, but instead of rising to the moment, he's been a liability cloaked in delusion. He missed 29 games during the regular season due to nagging injuries and finished the year with a modest 16.2 points per game, a steep drop from his OKC MVP caliber days. Worse still, his presence has disrupted the team's chemistry more than it has enhanced it. George disappears in crucial moments, loses defensive assignments, and fails to take over games when Embiid is off the floor. And yet, he still carries himself like a superstar, walking, talking, and acting like a leader, despite performances that suggest otherwise. He's stuck in a mental time warp, replaying highlights from Indiana and OKC in his head while the reality on the court tells a different story. And the most frustrating part? He refuses to scale back, redefine his role, or even acknowledge the truth. He's not that guy anymore.
Like, the first initial deal was, I thought, kind of disrespectful.
The expectation when you're earning 9 figures in the NBA is simple: show up and dominate. Joel Embiid, for example, is expected to deliver 30-point nights, control the paint, and set the emotional tone for the team. But during a crucial stretch in December, he faltered, scoring under 20 points in 8 different games. Even more troubling, cameras caught Embiid yawning during live play and later admitting he was bored playing the center position.
To be honest, I'm bored, playing and, on a 5. Just don't do enough for me.
That's not what leaders do. That's not how champions carry themselves. And George? He wasn't much better. Instead of being a reliable co-star, George has added inconsistency and drama. He looks more engaged in interviews than in playoff battles. His body language is uninspired. His game, once feared, now feels like a flickering reminder of what could have been. Because while the league has evolved, Paul George is still chasing ghosts, clinging to a version of himself that no longer exists, refusing to accept that the spotlight has already faded. Bradley Beal once looked like a franchise savior, a 3-level scorer with the finesse of a veteran and the energy of a rising star. He was Washington's lone bright spot during some of their darkest years, dropping 30-plus points a night while dragging a roster barely built to compete. His 2020-21 season, where he averaged 31.3 points per game,
alleviates the pressure on you having to help and corral. And you can kind of see it from the other flip side as Bradley Beal. Watching this. Well, she's not watching it right now. She's watching the morning. She's recording it.
That's that, Brad. Good 3 there.
Earned him All-Star honors and placed him in elite company. But that was the peak. Since then, Beal's narrative has unraveled, not just through his on-court play, but in the disconnect between who he thinks he is and what the league actually sees. Fast forward to 2024 to 2025, and Beal's legacy is caught in limbo. After being traded to the Phoenix Suns in a blockbuster deal, expectations soared. Fans envisioned a lethal big 3 alongside Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. Instead, Beal has been an unreliable afterthought. Injuries plagued the early part of his Suns' tenure, but even when healthy, he's been a shadow of his former self. This season, he's averaging just 17.5 points per game, his lowest since 2015, alongside career lows in usage rate and shooting efficiency. Once an offensive juggernaut, Beal now fades into the background, struggling to assert himself in the Suns' pecking order. And it's not like Phoenix can pivot. Beal is locked into one of the NBA's worst contracts, a 5-year, $251 million supermax with a no-trade clause. That clause, nearly unheard of, gives him absolute leverage, regardless of how poorly he performs. It's a financial anchor that handcuffs a Suns team already stretched to its limit. When you're being paid over $50 million per year, the bare minimum is to make an impact. But Beal, more often than not, disappears when it matters most. Just look at the 2024 playoffs. In critical moments, Beal deferred rather than attacked. He passed up open looks, missed easy jumpers, and showed none of the killer instinct he once had.
Suns, under a minute to go. First half. Lane opens up, and Beal blows the dunk for Beal. 2 defenders there. Beal takes it in, and he blows that one, but gets the tip in.
His defense, always suspect, has now become a glaring liability. The lateral quickness is gone, and his off-ball awareness is almost non-existent. teams actively target him on switches, knowing he won't fight through screens or rotate fast enough. Offensively, the explosiveness that once separated him is nowhere to be found. And worst of all, Beal doesn't seem to recognize the decline. Despite the mounting criticism and fading production, he still carries himself like an all-NBA guard. He speaks like the man who once dropped 50 on back-to-back nights, not the player who now posts empty stat lines and gets outplayed by role players. Even his All-Star selection this season felt more like a legacy nod than an earned achievement. That's the problem. The NBA doesn't operate on nostalgia, it's a what-have-you-done-lately league. And Beal's recent answer? Not much. In one particularly embarrassing moment, he cheered for Steph Curry after Curry drilled a shot over him, a strange sight for someone who was once supposed to be the assassin, not the fan. In another key game against Boston, Beal managed to score just a single point, a brutal showing in a matchup that demanded leadership. In a league that evolves fast, Beal has become a stagnant asset. He's not adjusting to age, he's not evolving his role, he's not becoming more efficient or impactful. He's drifting, propped up by a contract that guarantees job security while his value quietly erodes. He's no longer the guy you build around, he's barely the guy you can count on. And if he keeps refusing to acknowledge that, the NBA won't wait around. Because the hardest fall isn't physical. It's realizing the game has outgrown you, and you're the last one to notice. Damian Lillard was once the NBA's symbol of loyalty, a small market warrior who stayed with the Portland Trail Blazers when everyone else chased rings. He rapped about his roots, he preached patience, he famously declared he didn't run from the grind. But now the grind has run him over, and Dame, for all the legacy talk, is starting to look like a shell of the player he used to be. In Portland, Lillard was electric, an undersized scoring machine with unlimited range and an assassin's heart. He dropped 71 points in a single game.
Line to get the rock. High dribble, into the lane, running right-hander, up and in, Damian Lillard. With that runner, 71 points.
He ended playoff series with buzzer beaters that echoed through the league.
Lillard, long-range three, and it's good at the buzzer!
Year after year, he carried underwhelming rosters to the postseason, averaging over 25 points per game for 8 straight seasons. He was first-team All-NBA, a fan favorite, and arguably the most respected point guard in the league. But behind all those heroics was a painful truth. Portland was never close to winning anything. The front office failed to build around him. The deep playoff runs never came. And eventually, even Dame's patience had limits. In 2023, after a long and messy trade saga, Lillard was finally sent to Milwaukee, a franchise with real title hopes and Giannis Antetokounmpo waiting to share the spotlight. It was supposed to be the perfect ending. Dame time on the biggest stage. Instead, it turned into a disappointment. Lillard's first season with the Bucks was riddled with inconsistency. He averaged 24.3 points and 7.1 assists, still solid numbers, but a clear drop from his Portland prime. His efficiency slipped, especially from deep, where he shot just 35.4%, his lowest mark since 2015. The quickness off the dribble wasn't always there. His finishing at the rim looked hesitant. And the clutch moments that once defined his career, they rarely arrived when Milwaukee needed them. Even worse, his chemistry with Giannis never fully clicked. Lillard, used to dominating the ball, struggled to adjust to an off-ball role. Defensively, he remained a liability. Opposing teams targeted him relentlessly in the playoffs, and the Bucks' once-feared defense looked vulnerable when he was on the floor. When Giannis went down with an injury late in the season, it was supposed to be Lillard's moment to lead. But the offense sputtered, and the Bucks bowed out early, again. Injuries haven't helped. Lillard missed 21 games this season with nagging calf and groin issues, and at 33, he's not bouncing back the way he used to. The lateral quickness is fading. The durability is in question. The explosiveness, the thing that separated him from other small guards, is starting to slip. The Bucks, however, are all in. Lillard is owed $45 million this season, with that number climbing to over $60 million by 2027 when he'll be 37. It's one of the riskiest financial commitments in the league, and with each passing game he misses or underperforms, that bet looks worse. And yet, Lillard still talks like he's that same guy, the same Dame who used to drop 50 on command, the same Dame who waved goodbye to entire franchises, but he isn't, not anymore. This story could have ended differently, if he had left Portland earlier, if he had embraced a lesser role, if he had adapted to the changes around him. But Dame, in all his pride and loyalty, refused to budge. Now, the game is moving on, and he's still holding on to the past. He once stayed loyal to a team that didn't deserve him. Now he's loyal to a version of himself that no longer exists. And that, more than the injuries or the numbers, is the clearest sign that Damian Lillard, one of the coldest to ever do it, has officially fallen off.